Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Astottara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samved Gaur Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloka Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulangayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurundinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Isharam Om Jnanatimrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Romapada Swami Iti Namine. Namom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Good morning. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. Happy Ekadasi. Today we'll be reading from the 10th canto, the Summum Bonum, the 87th chapter, the prayers of the Vedas personified, verse 41. Did we ever figure out the meter for this chapter? Do you know that? The meter for this chapter. No? It almost works for Sad Goswami Astakam, but it's hard to chant responsively like that. Dyupataya evatina yayur antam anantaya Tvam apiyad antaradana Tvam apiyad antaranda nitya nanusavarana ka eva rajamscha Krishna Chaitanya ka eva rajamshi vanti vayasa sahayach trutayas Tvayihi palanti atanirasanena bhavanid nidhana Dyupataya evatina yayur antam anantaya Twayam apiyad anantaranda nichaya nanu savaranaha ka iva rajamsi vanti vasaya sahayach trutayas Twaihi palanti atanyara sanena bhavan nidhana. Please chant. Dew of heaven. Patayaha, the masters. Eva, even. Te, your. Na yayuhu, cannot reach. Antam, the end. Anantataya, because of being unlimited. Tvam, you. Api, even. Yat, whom. Antara, within. Anda, of universes. Nichaya, multitudes. Nanu, indeed. Sa, along with. Avarnaha, their outer shells. Ke, in the sky. Eva, as. Rajamsi, particles of dust. Vanti, blow out. Vayasasaha, with the wheel of time. Yat, Shrutayaha, the Vedas. Tvai, in you. He, indeed. Phalanti, bear fruit. Atat, of that which is distinct from the absolute truth. Nirasanena, by elimination. Bhavat, in you. Nidhanaha, whose ultimate conclusion. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Because you are unlimited, neither the lords of heaven nor even you yourself can ever reach the end of your glories. The countless universes, each enveloped in its shell, are compelled by the wheel of time to wander within you, like particles of dust blowing about in the sky. The Shrutis, following their method of eliminating everything separate from the Supreme, become successful by revealing you as their final conclusion. Purport. Now, in their last prayer, the personified Vedas draw the conclusion that all Shrutis, by their various literal and metaphorical references, ultimately describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead's identity, personal qualities, and powers. The Upanishads glorify Him without end. Yad urvam gargi divo yad arvak prativya yad antara dvaya prativi ime yad bhutam bhavachcha bhavishyachcha. My dear daughter of Garga, His greatness encompasses everything above us in heaven, everything below the surface of the earth, everything in between heaven and earth, and everything that has ever existed, exists now, or will ever exist. Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 4. To illuminate the meaning of this final prayer by the Shrutis, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur presents the following conversation between Lord Narayan and the personified Vedas. The Vedas said, Lord Brahma and other rulers of the heavenly planets have not yet reached the end of your glories. What can we do then, since we are insignificant in comparison to these great demigods? Lord Narayan replied, No, you Shrutis are gifted with more sublime vision than the demigods who rule this universe. You will be able to reach the end of my glories if you do not stop now. But even you cannot find your own limit. If that is the case, what do you mean when you call me omniscient and omnipotent? We conclude that you possess these features from the very fact that you are limitless. Certainly, if one is ignorant of something that does not even exist, like a rabbit's horn, that does not detract from his omniscience. And if one fails to find such a non-entity, that does not limit his omnipotence. You are so vast that multitudes of universes float within you. Each of these universes is surrounded by 7 shells composed of the material elements, and each of these concentric shells is 10 times larger than the one within it. Although we can never fully describe the truth about you, we perfect our existence by declaring that you are the true topic of the Vedas. But why do you seem dissatisfied? Because in the Vedas, Srila Vyasadeva has described the transcendental existence of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan only briefly. When he saw the need to elaborate on his description of the Supreme, he chose to concentrate on the subject of Brahman, the impersonal aspect of the Supreme, known as Tat, that, explaining Brahman by negating whatever is different from it. Just as in a field where a chest of jewels has been accidentally spilled, the jewels can be recovered by removing unwanted stones, twigs, and refuse. So within the visible realm of Maya and her creations, the absolute truth can be found by a process of elimination. Since we Vedas cannot possibly enumerate every material category, individual entity, quality, and motion in the universe from the beginning to the end of time, and since the truth concerning Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan would still remain untouched, even if we described all these things and then discarded them, by this means of investigation, we never expect to reach a final definition of you. Only by your mercy can we make some attempt to approach you, the supremely inaccessible absolute truth. There are many statements of Shrutis that carry on the work of Atan Nirasanam, the process of distinguishing the Supreme from everything inferior. The Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 388, for example, states, "It is neither big nor small, short nor long, hot nor cool, in shadow nor in darkness, nor is it the wind or the ether. It is not in contact with anything, and it has no taste, smell, eyes, ears, motion, potency, life air, pleasure, measurement, inside or out." The Kena Upanishad declares, Brahman is distinct from what is known, and also from what is yet to be known. And the Katha Upanishad says, Brahman is outside the scope of religion and irreligion, pious and impious action. According to the rules of linguistics and logic, a negation cannot be unbounded, and there must be some positive counterpart of which it is negotiate. And there must be some counterpart of which it is the negation. In the case of the Vedas' exhaustive Atan Nirasanam, their denial that anything material is absolutely real, the counterpart is that the Supreme God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, Sridhar Swami prays, "The gods of heaven do not know your limit, O endless Lord, and even you do not know it. Because the transcendental words of the topmost Shrutis become fruitful by revealing you, I offer you my obeisances. Thus I worship you as the absolute truth saying, "All glories to you, all glories to you." So, quite a hefty purport. This verse is the final prayer of the Shrutis in this chapter of prayers of the Shrutis. And they're giving their conclusion to all of their previous prayers. And that conclusion is that the ultimate goal of the Vedas is Krishna. We should note that it's described in several places that the Vedas are describing Krishna both directly and indirectly. And we should also consider that Krishna is unlimited and thereby can't be completely described directly or indirectly. It's also said that even Krishna doesn't know the end of his own glories. Even in the Brahma Vimohan Leela, where Krishna bewilders Lord Brahma, Balaram wasn't one of the cowherd boys who was captured, but it took him some time to notice that there's something a little bit off with these cowherd boys now. And he came to Krishna and he said, "Hey, things seem kind of different. What's going on?" And that's when Krishna explained, "Oh, well, Brahma stole all my friends, so I manifested them all. And he stole all my cows, so I manifested them too." This process that's talked about in the purport, Atan Nirasanam, which is a process of distinguishing Krishna from everything inferior. So it's separating. There's two categories, Krishna and not Krishna. Or from the perspective of the devotees, there's Krishna and Krishnas. So if it's not Krishna, it's belonging to Krishna. This is the highest level of understanding for a devotee, seeing everything in relation to Krishna. So there's one verse in the Brahma Samhita, which Srila Prabhupada quotes in the Nectar of Devotion, that ties in nicely to this. It's the 38th verse. And I had planned to chant this and several others, but we're already to 8 o'clock, so I'm going to skip the chanting of the nice Brahma Samhita verses. That's your homework for today's class, is to chant these verses. So in the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada gives a meaning to this verse that says, "One who has smeared his eyes with the ointment of love of Godhead sees Krishna constantly within his heart and outside also." So seeing Krishna directly is a spiritual kind of thing, but we can see Krishna in the material manifestation as well. First, we have to understand that he's residing in our heart. And not just in my heart, but in the hearts of all the living entities. And not just that he resides in the heart of all living entities, but he's pervading every single atom of this material manifestation. We can get a taste of Krishna's grandeur by observing this, by observing the beauty that he's instilled in nature, by looking at a night sky, by seeing the ability that he gives us. There's so many different ways to have an example of Krishna's splendor. The 10th canto of the Bhagavad Gita is also very nice for that. when one comes to understand not just the literal meaning of what Krishna is saying, because there's so many verses, about 40 verses in the 10th canto, where Krishna says, I am this and I am that, and of this I am that, and of that I am this. So going beyond the literal of what he's saying, I am the taste and water, and understanding the method behind what he's saying, then we really get a broader view of Krishna's excellence. And not just seeing Krishna all of these indirect ways or these abstract ways, but we should also ensure that we have a proper sadhana so that we can elevate ourselves to coming to the point of seeing Krishna face to face all of the time. We can see Krishna in the form of the deity. When we come and take darshan, we're seeing Krishna's face. We're seeing his lotus feet. But that concept, according to Rupa Goswami, is the level of the neophyte, when we just see Krishna in the temple. And there's a lot of people on this neophyte concept, that Krishna is only there on the altar. So we should be trying to see Krishna in other places as well. It's a progressive sort of thing. That's all bhakti is progress. First we see Krishna in the temple on the altar. We realize, oh yes, he's there, but he can see me even when the curtain's closed. He's not like me. I can only see Krishna when the curtain is open, but Krishna can see me when the curtain is closed. And Krishna can see me when I'm not in the temple. Krishna's in my heart. He's in your heart. He's in the drunk homeless guy outside's heart. He's in the heart of the plant that grew the rice that consists of the bag of rice that I'm offering now. He's in the heart of the trees that were cut down to make the altar that he's now standing on. He's not only that, he's in every single atom of the altar and the temple and the outside of the temple and me and you and everybody. And by gradually expanding our understanding of reality, we get closer and closer to seeing Krishna face to face. So in this purport, it describes about this process of distinguishing, and that the negative implies a positive, or if you're to negate something, that means that there's something else also there. And that is confirmed in the opposite manner by this process of trying to see Krishna everywhere. Now, in Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary, he's saying that each of the various Shrutis are revealing their own ideas about Krishna. They describe him both literally and metaphorically. They also describe his personal opulences and so many other aspects of Krishna. But even though the Shrutis have gone on for some time now in very eloquent language, describing Krishna in so many different ways, they still haven't drawn their full conclusion of what they're trying to say. So this verse is the Shrutis trying to wrap things up, trying to come up with a conclusion, and that they've done what they can to eliminate everything that isn't Krishna directly, and identify those things which are Krishna directly. So when we're speaking about the limitlessness of Krishna, there's some nice verses in the Brahma Samhita which kind of elaborate on this. The 33rd verse gives a couple of points. That Krishna is one without a second, infallible, beginningless, and he possesses unlimited forms. He's the oldest, but he's ever youthful, and he's, though he is inaccessible to the Vedas, he is easily accessible to the pure devotees. In the 40th verse, it's said that his effulgence is the source of millions of universes, and that in each universe, there's countless planets. So millions of universes, countless planets. And each one of those countless universes and countless planets each has its own unique characteristic. But that's just a partial aspect of Krishna's nature. And the 30th verse talks about Krishna's original form, that he's playing a flute, he has lotus petal-shaped eyes, and he wears a peacock feather. He has a complexion as beautiful as a rain-filled cloud, and that his beauty eclipses millions of cupids. So within these 3 verses, we get an idea of the broadness, of the vastness of Krishna. And while there are so many things, so many attributes, so many qualities that are not Krishna, there are so many attributes and so many qualities that are Krishna as well. In Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, he points out that the Shrutis have technically failed to reach the completion of the glory of the Supreme, and that this is also a glorification in and of itself, that the failure to properly glorify is a glorification. Which I found this point to be incredibly profound. Usually when we fail something, it's not good. But when we fail trying to describe Krishna, that is also a glorification. This verse is a summation of their previous direct, indirect, and esoteric glorifications. And Srila Chakravarti Pad says, in a summary of what the Shrutis are implying through their verses, that the lords of heaven, rulers of Swarga and other planets, headed by Brahma, have not reached your end. In comparison to them, then, who are we? But you Shrutis are even more refined in your vision than they. To this reply, that even you cannot come to your end, and thus we can simply forget about everyone else. So he's explaining that the Shrutis have come to the realization that they can, try to the best of their ability, and who has more ability to describe Krishna than the Shrutis, that they can't reach the end of Krishna's glories by the process of distinguishing inferior from superior, or by any other method. They're unable to come to the end of Krishna's glories. So the Shrutis are almost admitting defeat here. Srila Chakravarti Pad continues, how then am I omniscient and omnipotent? This they answer, that it is because of your having no end. They describe his endlessness in the words, beginning Yad Antaha. The Shrutis continue in saying, the Shrutis such as ourselves bear their fruit in you as their subject matter. It is by their accepting you that they are able to bear fruit. In other words, even though they are unable to define the truth about you, we are able to bear our fruit by declaring that the Shrutis have as their subject matter the personality of Godhead. There's a simple understanding to this almost complex statement. As Srila Chakravartipad's trying to explain the mood of the Shrutis in a suitable context for ourselves, which is to say that by accepting Krishna as the subject matter of our life, and by focusing our thoughts always on Krishna, and by doing all of our actions with Krishna in mind, and by aiming our existence towards Krishna's pleasure, then our life will bear fruit. Bhakti Vinod Thakur gives a nice instruction from Nityananda in the Bhajan Nadia Gudrume Nityananda Mahajan. He says, Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Pranadan. That we should accept Krishna as our mother, accept Krishna as our father, and accept Krishna as the very treasure of our life. And he gives how to do this in the next verse, where he says, giving up all sinful activities, carry on your worldly duties only in relation to Krishna. The showing of compassion to other souls by loudly chanting the holy names of Krishna is the essence of all forms of religion. So obviously this is a call to join the Sankirtan movement, and a explanation that this is a way for us to perfect our lives. And this is this goal of trying to perfect our lives is strengthened also by the 9 processes of bhakti. And of those 9, the Sankirtan movement is made primarily of the first 2 of Shravanam and Kirtanam. And Srila Prabhupada says that that's the whole point of our temples, and the whole point of our temple programs, and the whole point of our temple deity worship, is that we have an arranged, predetermined time to gather together and together chant Krishna's names. Together we can glorify Krishna and do all of these other nice things. Going back to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, he says, so why are you so extremely dissatisfied? This they answer with the words, Atan nirasanena bhavan nidhanaha. The Sanskrit more or less comes to the meaning, by eliminating that which is not Krishna, we come to the ultimate conclusion, which would be Krishna. Because, again, there are ultimately 2 things. There are Krishna and Krishnas. When we spend too much time focusing on the things that belong to Krishna, on Krishnas, we can get distracted from Krishna. That's kind of the potency of the illusory energy. That it's all belonging to Krishna, but it's all quite distracting from Krishna. And we eventually forget that it belongs to Krishna, and we start to think that, oh, some of these things belong to me. we start to think, this is my body. I want to acquire these things. I want to make this body also belong to me. I want to make so much of this, take so much of that, produce so much progeny, do so much whatever. Because we have a drop of material desire, we can confuse our position and mistake Krishna's for ours. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says as much in his purport, that when Vyasadeva elaborated on Brahman, he used the term tat, which became confused with atat. Atat is the material energy, and those things which are produced by Maya. Within the realm of atat, which is the material world that we happen to find ourselves in now, there is Krishna, but the analogy is used by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which is both in his own purport and quoted in this purport, that there's a field which contains jewels. And in that field there's things which are not jewels, namely the rest of the field. And there's things like stones and dirt and whatever, which need to be removed so we can get to the jewels. Now that's not to say that we have to discard the material world and, it's all illusion, it's all temporary, it's all fake. No, this is all quite real for us right now. We're in it, and we need to make the most of it. On the internal level, we have to come to the realization that this isn't anything belonging to me. And then from realizing that nothing belongs to me, I'm just in stewardship of a few things for a short period of time, including this body, then we start to understand that everything belongs to Krishna. This body belongs to Krishna. I'm just borrowing it for a period of time. And once we have that understanding, then we can begin to decipher what is Krishna's and who is Krishna. And this is confirmed by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur when he says the absolute truth is attained by the removal of those things which are atat. So Vyasadev's, actually it says atat, which in Sanskrit grammar, the prefix is a negation. So there's himsa, violence, and ahimsa, non-violence. There's tat, which is that, and there's atat, which is things which are not that. In his commentary, Srila Chakravarti Pad says, because it is impossible for us to specifically enumerate every single category, individual entity, quality, and kind of action among all moving and non-moving atat objects, from the beginning of creation up to the time of annihilation, and because even if they were all counted and discarded, the truths of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan would still remain all the more approachable and unlimited. What possibility, then, is there of carrying our investigation to the point of a final destination? So this question that he's posed, he answers himself by saying, for this reason, only if we receive your mercy or someone else receives it, will the unapproachable truth then become easily approached. So not only is this confirmed in earlier verses in this chapter, it's confirmed in the Gita as well, where Krishna says, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. It's only by the mercy of Krishna, directly or indirectly by Guru, that one can actually understand Krishna. And for most of us, it only comes through Guru. Every morning, we sing in Sanskrit that the spiritual master is receiving benedictions from the ocean of mercy. So this is the process for the 99% of us, that the spiritual master is receiving the benedictions and sharing them with us. So that means we have to be ready to receive those benedictions. There can be $100 bills sitting on the street, but if you don't go over and pick one up, you're not going to get any more money than you already have. It's a matter of divine grace, but it's also a matter of our own willingness to accept that divine grace. And particularly in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, in Kali Yuga, we're very fortunate because Mahaprabhu has come to freely give pure love of God without consideration of time, place, circumstance, or recipient. It's not a question of if we're qualified or if he's willing to give. It's a question of if we're willing to take. We just have to have the wherewithal to take the mercy. And by taking that mercy, we come to understand that which even the Vedas personified don't rightly know how to describe. And not only do we understand, we attain to that. We attain Krishna. Krishna becomes ours, and we remember that we are Krishna's. So with that, we still have a couple of minutes if anyone has any questions.
Good morning, and how are you? Thank you for giving the class. At times, because of the acoustics, some of the clarity, but you did a fantastic job. It was so great that you emphasized the fact that, many times we forget that Krishna is just not on the altar, because Krishna is everything. Krishna created us, the universes, everything. I mean, our clothing, furniture, everything. So, but it seems that many times we may forget that. So you could be walking down the street and you just somehow miraculously got on the bus, and you didn't think you were going to make it, and somehow you got on your next connection and the light was allowing you to cross because you allowed for Krishna to be there with you. So that was an actual situation like me today, because everything's running behind, it's not competent, but because the faith and the belief in keeping Krishna in your heart or keeping him with you, that is so important. But many times we forget. Krishna isn't just the deities in your car on the, in the front where you have the windshield in the dashboard area, or Krishna's not just on the altar, or, you may have a fancy altar at home, and Krishna is with you as long as you're a believer with your heart open, but he's there all the time. So many times I've had incidents of, oh my goodness, I'm locking the door, but where are the keys? Or, that Paramatma that we always talk about is there, but we're not listening. And we keep forgetting that he's not only with us, but he knows what we're engaging in. And of course, once you've accepted the Krishna, of course, if you want to call him any of his other names, but he's still Krishna, he's going to be with you, and you're activating this because you're drawing on the faith. But he does know that if you're not trying to be Krishna conscious, he is aware of that. He is definitely aware of that. So Krishna is everywhere. Krishna is at the grocery store. He's on the bus. He's at the football game. So Krishna is everything. So I'm glad you emphasized that. That's all I'll say for now. Did you want to speak? Properly? Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.